All right, some of you heard about the dreaded synthesis packet, which at this point you may have in front of you. This is a very, very important packet, and it's really an aid for writing well-crafted theme analysis essays to help you organize your big ideas from the books that we've read in class, and you can apply them and use them your senior year. Ms. Sizemore a lot of times asks for students to keep these until senior year, and I do too, because they're really helpful right before you take that AP Lit test your senior year. So you don't want to lose it. You want to keep it. I want to show you what it actually looks like. So this is what students actually see their senior year if they choose to take the AP Lit test, which I highly recommend. There are 3 essays that students actually complete, and one of them is to complete from memory an essay written on a book. And you may notice that, for example, Great Expectations shows up on this list. And so students are able to use this book or one of comparative literary merit, which can include another book you read in class, to help answer an essay question. So you just have to remember what you read. So what we've done in the English department is develop an actual packet that you should have here to help you remember, because oftentimes you forget all those great things you read by the time you're a senior. So I want to talk a little about this packet and how to complete it, when it's due, all that good stuff. So real quick, you can use this packet. I'm going to say this right away, that we are going to write some essays in class about the books that we read after spending all that time reading. And so it'll be good for you to actually keep this, because you'll be able to use that when we come back in our class from Christmas break to write your essay. So it's almost like a cheat sheet. Okay, I know you feel so much better now about the synthesis packet. I want you to fill out all the portions except those that don't apply. So for example, you're going to see some sections like Man versus Nature, which wouldn't apply to a book like To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenging ideas in a moment here, like symbolism and time and place, and just kind of go through a couple of things. So we'll come back to that. Let's look at the actual packet itself. So the first section right here is to just fill out what it actually asks for: the title, author's name. I'm not going to read through all of this, but be thorough. When you see the character description development, how does the character change over the novel? Is the character static, meaning the character doesn't change? Is the character dynamic? Does the character change throughout the story or learn something? What sorts of things really drive the characterization through this novel? And be specific too about the character traits, how they may interact with other characters. There's not a lot of room here, but you need to have a really good idea of how around these characters are. Down here, for the major conflicts, like I said, you want to include the ones that actually apply to the book. So Man versus Man is definitely going to apply to, for example, Great Expectations, and Man versus Society, but Man versus Nature, not so much. We talked about motifs before. You want to actually use some justification or proof from the text. Where does that motif show up? Where's that climactic moment? And where's that actual part of the text? This is the biggie right here, is the theme statement. We're going to talk more about this, and that's why there's so much room here. We're going to refine that as we go. So what you want to do is you want to try to just write down a theme statement here. We've worked on this in class. Blank is about blank and reveals that ... Okay, so we want to try to create a good statement here, find proof from text, the setting and the symbolic significance. So for example, To Kill a Mockingbird is from Macomb, Alabama. It's set in Macomb, Alabama for most, or if not all, the novel. Why is that significant symbolically? Well, Macomb really represents it represents the Great Depression. It represents Southern life. I mean, you can talk about what it represents, the symbolism there, and some other things as well. There may be other settings. I'm sorry, this is actually the time. So the 1930s, of course, would represent the Great Depression. Down here, the place, Macomb, Alabama, might actually represent Southern life. It might have a tie-in with racial discrimination, things like this. Okay, so time and place, they represent something. This is the one area that students struggle with the most. But I think that you can definitely see how time and place represent other things. Symbolism, we have lots of examples in our novels. You're not going to always fill out all four, but for example, To Kill a Mockingbird, well, the mockingbird itself, right? Definite symbol, some other things that happen in the text. There's a number of them in To Kill a Mockingbird. Great Expectations has a number of symbols, quite a few. And Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer does. They're not as overt. So that book will not have as much in the side of symbolism. Stylistic and rhetorical devices, you can really go back to Diddles and look at imagery. As we get into poetry, we'll be able to pull out more stylistic or rhetorical devices, but you're only looking for three, and the ones that really stick out for this author. So for example, if the author uses lots of imagery, or the author's diction is poetic, you may be able to find, lots of figurative language, things like this. Okay, stylistic devices. So for Dickens, for example, his stylistic device is going to be that Dickensian style, where he uses satire and he uses grotesque details, and so you'd want to definitely put that down for him. Down here, memorable quotations, probably spoken by the actual characters in the novel, and what the significance of them are. And then, of course, this is really connected to the theme oftentimes, is that title, Great Expectations. What's the significance of Great Expectations, or The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, or To Kill a Mockingbird? All right, why is that such an important title? When you get done with this is the final stage, and this is really important. Down here, you'll develop your theme statement, and you want to make sure with your theme statement right here that you create an arguable, specific guiding statement in the central circle. We talked about what makes a really good theme statement. It has to be arguable, it needs to be specific from the text, it needs to guide your essay. Then you're going to look at that statement and say, okay, what contributed mostly to this theme? For whatever that theme is, whatever that statement is, about life that the author's conveying. What contributed most? Was it Pip? Was it the character of Pip? If so, you need to put him up here. If it was Miss Havisham for like Great Expectations, what was it about her and what she represented? Or maybe it was another character. It could actually be a place. It could be an event in the novel, but you want to look for your actual pieces here. It could be a quotation. You're going to take these things, in other words, and you're probably going to move these down here. So you're taking your 6 top contributing pieces, as it were, from up here, and you're going to use these and put these down here. This kind of just helps you organize things and say, okay, the rhetorical devices really contribute to this theme statement, or the climax is so important to this story and what happens, and that really contributes to it. So you're taking these ideas that you've already created, just transferring them down here so that you can kind of see a big picture of what's happening in the novel. Okay, so those are a couple of things. This, for our class, will be due after Christmas break. And one last thing I want to say is to actually look at some of the released essays that students have written their senior year, and start to get a feel for what was graded highly. And some of those statements, they create really good theme essays. If you can create a really good theme essay, you can virtually write anything. Some of these essays are spectacular. And like I said, if you can develop a really good theme statement, you can write all the way up to master's level work. So this is really, really helpful for us as we learn to become really critical writers and analytical writers. Down here, this one's really short. I think it's had like a 2 out of 9. So this one was really bad. So good luck, students, and we will talk later.